In this video, we're going to show you how to install our LED daytime running lamps in your XC60. Some tools needed for this installation is a set of wire strippers, small metric sockets, some Torx bits, and a soft pry tool. Out of the box, your kit includes both lamp panels, wiring harness and control box, one fuse tap, two posi tap wire connectors, one posi twist wire connector, two sensor plugs, which you may or may not need, and one inline fuse, which you will not be using for this installation. We'll begin by opening the hood of the XC60 and then removing the airbox assembly. Using a 7mm socket, loosen the clamp around the intake air tube. Using a Torx 25, loosen the 4 screws around the airbox lid. The lid can simply be rotated up and rested out of the way for the rest of this job. Go ahead and remove the air filter and set it aside. Remove the lower airbox assembly by snapping it out of the fitting underneath. Now remove the lid to the fuse box. Each headlight assembly is mounted with one long and one short quick pull retainer. Remove both retainers. The electrical connector behind the headlight can be released with the headlight assembly partially removed. Be very careful to keep the light assembly off the painted bumper surface. Once you release the electrical connector, set the headlight assembly aside where it won't be damaged. The lower grills are removed with a soft pry tool to protect the paint's finish. They come out easier if you start from the inside edge. If your car is equipped with parking sensors, use the plastic pry tool and release the lock tab and electrical connector. If your car has no parking sensors, this kit comes with rubber plugs that cover the holes in the new lower grills. They are easily installed in the openings. For cars with parking sensors, the sensors will need to be removed from the original grills and installed in the new grills. The sensor is removed from the bezel by prying out the top and bottom of the bezel and pulling the sensor out the back. Once the sensor has been removed from the bezel is removed from the panel by pressing in the tabs at the base and pulling out through the front. The parking sensor and bezel will snap into the new grills like the originals. Switch one side at a time to avoid mixing the sensors since they are side specific. The main harness has a plug for each light panel and 2 plugs at the control module. The control module will install under the driver's side headlamp frame. This is where we begin our routing process. Route the short panel connector under the headlight frame down to the driver's side panel opening. The control module connectors will be beneath the driver's side headlight. Let them hang out in the general airbox area, as we'll come back to them later once we connect them to the control module. The harness to the passenger side can be routed along the top of the radiator and tucked in behind the foam air seal. Then route the harness down the side of the radiator and under the passenger side headlight frame to the panel opening. Plug in the light connector and parking sensor if equipped. Then snap the light panel into the opening. It helps if you start from the inside edge of the panel. Repeat this step for the driver's side. Reinstall just the passenger side headlight, and don't forget to reattach the headlight electrical connector. Install both quick pull retainers. The outside quick retainer goes in at an angle. Check that the headlamp is fully secure. You will need to unwrap the harness directly behind the driver's headlamp connector by pulling off the tape and splitting the loom open. The signal connections for the control module will be made here. These signal connections supply information for the control module, but the main power and ground will be sourced later. When the control module is powered, the lights will operate at the brighter level. When the power is supplied to the blue wire, the LEDs will dim. When the power is supplied to the white wire, the LEDs will shut off. DOT regulations require the auxiliary lights to go out when the high beam is on. There are many possible configurations, but we will demonstrate the legal way to connect the LEDs. Route the connectors for the LED lights under the headlight frame. Unclip the headlight electrical connector and peel back the loom for easier access. The control module will go underneath the headlight frame. We've used a piece of double-sided tape to help secure the module. Now that the control module is mounted in place, connect the LED harness plugs to the control module. These connectors are not side-specific. Go ahead and tuck the harness underneath the headlight frame. Connect the power harness to the remaining module connector. The ground wire simply goes under one of the previously existing ground bolts on the chassis under the airbox. Using the supplied posi tap, connect the blue wire to the yellow and red wire in the headlight harness. This is a signal for the headlight low beam. The posi tap connector will allow the connection without cutting the wire. Posi taps are used when you need to tap into a wire without cutting. First, remove the base of the posi tap and position the channel around the sourced wire. Thread the posi tap back onto the base while piercing the wire. Unscrew the collar from the end of the posi tap. Feed the stripped wire end through the collar. Make sure the wire is protruding out the end of the collar. Screw the collar back onto the posi tap connector, safely securing the two wires together. Using another supplied posi tap connector, attach the white wire to the gray and brown wire in the headlight harness. This is a signal for the headlight high beam. We've used some electrical tape to protect the connections for durability. Remove fuse number 16 from the engine compartment fuse box. Install the supplied fuse tap in position 16. The fuse tap will allow you to source power for your LED lights without breaking into the factory power harness. We are placing the fuse tap in the headlamp control module location since this is appropriately switched for this application. Using a knife or a pair of side cutters, cut off a rubber cap to route the red wire out the side of the fuse box. Connect the red-to-red power wires using the supplied posi twist connector. Here we are holding a posi twist connector. Posi twist connectors are great when an inline connector is not needed to connect two wires. You simply unscrew the end of the posi twist. Once that is removed, you feed two stripped wires twisted together through the end of the cap. Make sure the wire is protruding out the end of the cap before screwing it to the posi connector. Screw the cap back onto the posi twist connector, safely securing the two wires together. Reinstall the driver's headlamp electrical connector as shown. Secure the blue and white wires along the existing harness. Reinstall the driver's headlamp connection and assembly using the two quick pull retainers. Reinstall the fuse box cover, air box base, air filter, and air box lid. Don't forget to tighten the clamp. Check the 3 different light positions for function before driving.